Welcome to the castle, everybody. This is Nightsaber Z, and this is Character Vault, a series where I go through the entire character creation process in various tabletop role-playing games, and today we're going to be taking a look at Black Powder and Brimstone by Benjamin Tobit. This is based off of the Mork Borg system, so if you're familiar with that, then you'll be familiar with this book. Let's go ahead and pop this book open and see what the whole process entails. First and foremost, we're going to need something to write down on our character sheet, preferably a pencil, like this one. Next, we're going to need some dice. We're going to need some D6s and some D8s, maybe a D20 here and there, but those are going to be your basic dice that you're going to need when you're rolling for your stats and stuff like that. When making a character, the first thing that you're going to do is roll for some stats, your health. You're going to pick a character archetype if you wish, and we'll talk about that here in just a second. Then you're going to pick a weapon or spells that you can wield or afford. Then you'll buy your starting gear, you'll name your character, and then you'll go forth and you'll play. Everything that I just described is making a character from scratch. I would kind of say that this is more of like a custom character, as in you're not picking an archetype or a class or anything like that, and you want to just build your own character the way that you want it. That's actually the process that you'll go through. Alternatively, if you opt in to pick a character archetype, things are going to be a little bit different. Your HP might be calculated a little bit differently, as well as a few of your stats. Also, your gold calculation, things like that. I'm actually going to pick a character archetype because I actually like the character archetypes in this book, and there's quite a number of them. So we have different categories. We have the mercenary deserter, which will include the rifleman, the great swordsman, and the grenadier. Then we'll have the bounty hunters, which includes the pistolier, the master trapper, and the beast hunter. We'll have the witches, which will include the woods witch, the herbalist, and the heron? I've actually never heard that word before. We have the opportunist, which will include the adventurer, the sneak thief, and the silver-tongued trickster. And then we'll have the practitioners, which will include the vow of war, the vow of healing, and the vow of sustenance. I'm actually going to build a character using the vow of sustenance, the most OP archetype in this entire book, by far. It is written that the Torn Prophet fed 1,000 people with naught but a grain of rice and an eel. You cannot boast such talents, but you try your best. Provided you have some ingredients, you may make a hearty meal for you and your companions that recovers D8 HP and gives a +2 to agility, strength, and toughness saves for the rest of the day. You begin with 8 rations and 2 water skins, a box of salt, cooking pot, a skillet, cutting knife and spoon, enough bowls for the rest of the party, and a precious cache of herbs and spices. In addition to that, we have the cast iron wallop. We succeed at a DR 12 strength to knock a human-sized creature unconscious for D4 rounds. The pan can also be used to parry like a sword. Not bad for a humble skillet. Now, before we actually get into the nitty-gritty with the vow of sustenance, there's a couple things that we need to make note. Our HP is going to be toughness plus a D12. If you're building a character from scratch, that means no archetypes, your HP is calculated with toughness plus a D8. In addition, when you're rolling for your stats, you're going to be rolling straight up 3d6 for strength, agility, presence, and toughness. For the practitioner, it's a little bit different. For our strength and toughness, that's going to be 3d6 plus 1. For our agility and presence, it will be 3d6 minus 1. We also start with 1d6 times 10 gold. In addition to that, we also have a secret, and we can roll that with a d6. For now though, let's go ahead and roll for some stats. I have my 3d6 right here, so let's go ahead and roll. Now, it doesn't really specify whether or not we're rolling straight down our stats list, although this is kind of a game that's in the same vein as old school, and usually in a lot of old school games, you start with the top skill, in this case strength, and you roll your 3d6 and then you move on to the next one. I'm actually just going to form a pool of numbers here and then allocate them to my stats. You can do it however you want. That's just the way that I'm gonna do it. So let's take our 3d6 and see what our first number is. All right, we have a 14. Our next number that we're going to get is, a 12. For number 3, our number is a 13. That's what we have. So we're doing all right, actually. And our last number, our fourth and final one. That is not so good. That's a 10. So what do these numbers mean? Well, actually, we're going to consult the abilities start table. So on a 1 through 4, our score is going to be -3. That's the lowest that you can get. So anytime you make a roll, you're going to subtract 3 from the result. 5 through 6 is -2. 7 through 8 is -1. A 9 through 12 is a 0. A 13 to 14 is +1. A 15 to 16 is +2. And a 17 to 18 is +3. Our scores are calculated a little bit differently since we are of an actual archetype, the practitioner. And so we're going to make our 14 our strength, which is actually going to become a 15. Therefore, our strength is going to be +2. Our agility is going to be 12, but we also have a -1, which will bump that down to 11, which will give us just a +0 to our score. Our toughness will be 13, but we do get a +1, bringing that to 14, giving us a +1 for the score. And our presence is going to be the 10, which will go down to 9, which will keep that as a 0. Luckily, we're right there on the edge, so we do keep it as a 0. Let's actually roll for our secret real fast. That's going to be a d6 roll, and let's see, what number are we going to get? A 1. You murdered your superior after you saw what they had done. You know, I was actually secretly hoping that would be it, and hey, we rolled it, so we're going to stick with it. Next is our HP, which is calculated with toughness plus a d12. So let's go ahead and roll our d12 and then add our toughness to the score. We have a 4 plus 1, bringing that to 5. By the way, you can never go below 1, so it will at minimum be a 1. For now, our HP is 5. That's actually really low, but oh well, that's the way the game rolls sometimes. Last but not least, we need a roll for our gold, which is a d6 times 10. Let's see what we get. 2 times 10, so we have 20 gold. And the last thing that we need to do for our character is name them. And our name is going to be Hilda, the cook, or the vow of sustenance. But for our first for this channel, or at least this series, we're going to be creating 2 characters. One for Hilda to interact with, possibly. Because, well, I say that, but really we're not going to make another practitioner. Instead, we're going to the way of the weird, and we're going to choose a witch. Specifically, the Woods Witch. There are some things that are a little bit different, but if you're choosing an archetype, you're still going to look at the actual class, and then you'll look at the actual archetype for the specific stuff. Again, I'm going to be choosing the Woods Witch. Many rightly fear the woods, but not you. They have always been your home. No matter where you are, you feel the cold dew of a blue-gray morning under dark branches. We have the Force Through the Trees ability, so we roll presence +2 to find your way in the woods. We also have a trusty bird. Your bird is loyal, but only to you, and despises everyone else. You have a primeval link to its thoughts, and it will do as you command. It can scout, keep watch, and even attack your foes. It has 4 HP, and it deals d4 damage with its claws or its bite. In addition to that, we start with a talisman, a small wood and stone item that can be used to bless others. You can give +1 to any roll not made by yourself once per round. Our HP is calculated with toughness plus a d6, our presence is 3d6 plus 2, and our strength is 3d6 minus 2. For everything else, we're just going to use the standard rolls of 3d6, but for gold, we get 1d6 times 10. We do start with 2 spells from the spell page, which we'll do a little bit later, and we are running from something. We can roll a d6 for that. I'm gonna tell you straight up, I chose number 1, the Inquisition. For now, let's go ahead and roll for our stats. Again, I'm just going to take 4 different roles, and then I'll allocate them to the stats a little bit later. So for our first number, we get an 11. Not bad, that's kind of just average right there. So our next number is, ooh, that's bad. That's real bad. We got a 3. And quite honestly, that's probably going to be going to our lowest stat, which is most likely going to be strength, which means we're just gonna have a strength of 1. Oh boy. Yeah, we're not in a really good position. What's our third number? Let's see. A little bit better, we have a 12. And then for our fourth and final number, let's see, 10. So not the greatest numbers in the world. I am going to put our 11 at agility, which means we get a +0. Okay, we already knew that strength was going to be that 3, so minus the 2, that's going to bring it down to 1, which is a -3 ability score. Wow. Our presence is going to be the highest stat because that's really what we are going to use for magic casting. So that 12 plus the 2 makes it 14. So we get a +2 for our ability and presence. And then our toughness is going to be the 10, which is just going to bring it down to a +0. So not the best scores in the world, but hey, we're not playing the best character in the world either. We do get to roll for our HP, which is a toughness plus a d6. Let's go ahead and do that real quick. What are we going to get? Remember, because our toughness is 0, so this is straight up 1 HP. Now, we do start with 2 spells, so let's go ahead and turn to page 84 and see what we can select. Spellcasting is very interesting in this game. First, every morning we have to roll presence plus a d4 to determine how many spells we can cast that day. We can cast the same spells several times per day. In order to cast a spell, however, we roll a d20 and add our presence. We need to beat a DR of 12, by the way. Now, if we succeed, we automatically accomplish the spell's effect and we subtract 1 use of our daily total. On a failure though, we become dizzy for d6 rounds. That means if we try to cast another spell when we're dizzy, the spell automatically fails in the worst way that you can imagine. So why would you ever try? Now, in terms of spells, we have access to Witch Mark, Cursed Ammunition, Wound Eater, Toad, Invisibility, Obedience, Darkness or Light, Guiding Hand, Rot and Rust, Roots and Vines, Flight, Lightning Bolt, Back from the Brink, Healing Hand, Silence, Talk to the Dead, Ring of Fire, Befuddlement, Wall of Rock and Earth, and Scalding Touch. There are also 3 additional spells which can be learned from Gothel, the Mistress of Twilight, which you'll need to go through that whole process if you're interested. These include Spectral Skeletons, Raise the Dead, and Death Glare. For our 2 spells, I'm actually going to choose Witch Mark. Once you mark an object, you may at any time, 1. Return it to your hand, 2. Turn it invisible, 3. Grow or shrink it, 4. Turn it into an imp, or 5. Make it explode for 2d6 damage, which will of course destroy the object. I'm also going to take Healing Hand. Heal up to d4 creatures 6 hit points. And of course, the last thing that we're going to do is name our character, and her name will be Rowena, the Witch. Let's take a moment to look at the character sheets. First, let's start with Hilda. She murdered her superior. She is of the Vow of Sustenance class, or the Cook class as I like to call it. There are no spells for her. Her maximum hit points are 5. Her strength is +2. Her agility is 0. Her presence is 0, and her toughness is +1. She has the cooking feat, so she can cook some food for her companions and they get like +2 to certain saves. Her weapons include a skillet, although I don't think it does damage. You just roll a DR12 strength test, and if you succeed against a human creature, they are unconscious for d4 rounds. Although I would also make the case that it could also be like fists, so a d2's worth of damage as well. Although then that would be really OP. She's not wearing any armor, so she doesn't have any damage reduction. She does have 20 gold, and she has rations ×8, water skins ×2, a box of salt, cooking pot, the skillet, a cutting knife with a spoon, enough bowls for the rest of her party, and herbs and spices. Devil's Luck is something that we didn't really talk about, but at the beginning of each day, all characters start with 3. And here we have Rowena the Witch. And sorry for all the mistakes. I actually started writing down Hilda's numbers before I actually realized I was writing on Rowena's character sheet. So we have Rowena the Witch. She is on the run from the Inquisition. She is of the Woods Witch class, and she has some spells, which include Witch Mark and Healing Hand. She only has 1 HP, but that's okay. She's a boss. She's gonna make things explode just by touching them. You know, kind of like Scar from Full Metal Alchemist. Her strength is -3, her agility is 0, her presence is +2, and her toughness is 0. She does have a trusty bird that's probably gonna tank all the damage for her, but it only has 4 HP and it deals D4 damage, either with its claws or its bite. She also has the Force through the trees, which I believe gives her +2 to presence to navigate through forests. She doesn't have any armor or weapons, but that's okay, again, Scar. And she only has 10 gold, which I forgot to roll, but I rolled a 1 instead. She does have a talisman though, and of course, since it's the beginning of the day, she's going to start with 3 in Devil's Luck. And that's how to make a character in Black Powder and Brimstone. This of course was using the archetypes. If you're not using the archetypes and you want a little bit more control over what your character is, then you would just opt in for the basic default character creation rules, which are at the very beginning of that chapter. But anyways, that's it for this video. Feel free to leave a comment down below. Give this video a huge thumbs up to support the series, and I will see you guys in the next video.